Great to have you all here today. I'm in an empty classroom here except for Kathy. So on the downside, I get no real direct feedback, but on the good side, you can't really throw tomatoes at me. So it's got to kind of work for us. So this is an exciting topic for us on prospecting, but I'm just going to kind of do a shameless plug for the SBDC here locally. So actually it's Kathy and I, we support Volusia County businesses and really enjoy what we do. But as Teresa mentioned, we're a large organization and we're actually part of the SBDC of UCF. So there's about 30 or so folks on our team. So you don't have to depend on all of our expertise. We have a bunch of folks that we can call upon. The great news is because it is no cost, as she mentioned, our rates are great, right? It doesn't cost anything. Your tax dollars are paid for. So we love what we do and we love to help our small businesses grow and succeed profitably. And that's part of the theme of today. So the types of things we do, we work with startups that are really ready, committed to do it. We do a lot of business and marketing plans, projections, kind of the things that you'll need for raising capital, which we also help with. These days, with a lot of marketing being digital and digital being the most affordable for small businesses, we've kind of honed our expertise there in website development, SEO, social media, messaging, that sort of thing. And we love doing it. Again, sales, as you may have noticed, sales and marketing is sort of my specialty along with financial analysis. And it's really, really fun. And we do help companies try to get their message forward, which is a good bit of what we're going to talk about today. We also do a ton of industry research, which is great. We have subscriptions to very expensive tools, but because we have access to it, that data is then available to our clients, which is really interesting and something even medium-sized businesses may not have access to. So it's really another weapon in your quiver, if you will. And then we also help with specialized stuff, things that I'm unqualified to do, but people on my team are. So examples would be like import-export or government contracting. Those are areas the SBDC can really specifically help with, not me precisely, but somebody else on my team. So what I wanted to do, let's get to the interactive part of our program. So I thought a couple of polls might be interesting. And so with Teresa's help, if we could kind of like we're only going to do two, but I just want to kind of see what where the audience is with regard to current prospecting. So let's kind of take a look at these if we could.
So our first poll, what are the toughest aspects of prospecting? Please click all that apply. We'll have about a minute total and about 45 seconds left of that.
Oh, this is cool.
It's exciting to see that almost half of you have already voted and we're only halfway through our time.
Wow. So as I said, Teresa, before we started, I just had a gut feeling that we had a super talented audience today, and this is only proving me right. So well done, guys. Wow, okay.
10 more seconds, everyone.
Okay.
Tom, do you want me to go straight into the next poll or do you want me to share these responses first?
Let's share this one because it's really interesting.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Can you see that, Tom?
Yeah, I can. So this is pretty interesting and not terribly surprising, but a lot of folks are like, okay, well, how do we do this thing? Which is a good timing, right? We're going to talk about that today. And then fear or discomfort, which we're actually going to kind of talk about the science of prospecting, which should help with that. And then I'm very interested to see that other activities are more fun. Nothing's more fun than prospecting, seriously. We'll get into that. And then it seems like a waste of time, which is really kind of key because a lot of times, if it's not done right, prospecting can really seem like we're just spinning wheels. So this is awesome. Great. Okay, so yeah, Teresa, the next poll would be great.
Here we are. Which increased prospecting increase sales and profits for your company? Please select one of the two options.
I'm not going to say I don't know. This is too talented a group. Okay.
We are further ahead on this one than we were last time, guys. About 66% have voted, and we're only at 30 seconds. We've got another 30 to go.
Okay. Awesome. This is where we really need like music going in the background.
Right?
Maybe like
I was
Jeopardy
thinking that. I was
music.
thinking that.
Yeah,
We got
Jeopardy
10 more
music would
seconds,
work great.
everyone. 10 more seconds for you to get in your vote. Quick one or the other. And we're closing.
Okay,
There
cool. So
are,
it ended up being a trick question. Looks like everybody's on board with this actually works, but how do we do it? So that makes me feel like this is going to be worthwhile. So thanks for your participation in the polls, and I hope that we kind of answer, particularly the first one, of some of the areas that cause discomfort or we're not really sure how to do it. So we're gonna talk through that now. So I want to make sure I'm still on. What is prospecting? And really, when we talk about prospecting, and let's see, there we go. It's a lot of different things, but at the end, what it really is kind of a human marketing, right? And I always say people buy from people, so that's like overused term, but it's so true, that connection, because people a lot of times will kind of say, what is it you're all about? And when we reach out to folks, the best way that we can relate is through asking questions, right? What are you doing in your business? What's the biggest thing you're trying to accomplish? What problem are you trying to solve? So I'm out there hunting, looking for folks that I can help. Remember, I didn't say sell to, how can I help? So it's an investigation. If you use a system, it's really fun because you can kind of get the data and know where not to spend your time and where you should spend your time. Most importantly, halfway down, or I guess 2/3 of the way down the first column, you'll see prioritizing. We're going to talk about that in a second, why that's really, really critical. But again, it is about educating and it's listening. When we ask questions, we find out more. If I come to you and say, I've got the greatest invention in the world, just sit down and listen to me, you're going to be like, maybe it's not a good use of my time, right? But if I ask you, what's going on in your business, in your life, what are you trying to accomplish? I'm going to learn more about it and figure out whether it makes any sense for me to talk to you about it any further, right? So it's that communication, and I will kind of sell you on the idea that you do this right, it really is a lot of fun. So it's a bit of a system. So just kind of the nitty gritty of it. What is it? It's really just going out and finding qualified buyers. A prospect or somebody that I'm seeing for the first time is nothing more than a suspect, right? I don't have any data to go on necessarily unless it was a referral, and we'll talk about that as well too. But it's going to be phone calls, it's going to be emails, it's going to be networking with other people, it's going to be using social media more and more to get our message out. Showing my age again, I actually started my career where we literally knocked on doors, and while that is still a thing in some industries, more and more that's more difficult to do, to just kind of go in and interrupt somebody's day to try to get them to talk about something. So a lot of times using the other methods of technology, and the phone still works very, very well, is important. And the reason we're doing that is because we're trying to qualify prospects, because a lead is only a lead when I've actually qualified them. And that means, do they have the budget? Do they have the money? Do they have the authority to make a decision? Is there really a need? And is this the right time? Maybe it's not now, but later. And so we want to understand those things. So there's got to be a potential for a solution. And then the thing I like to mention is just, yes, you always hear it's a numbers game. Contact enough people and you sell some. Perhaps, but that's highly inefficient when I think about it in the broad range. But I do need to understand that probably only 10% of prospects, even leads, ever convert into customers. So there has to be this filling of the pipeline. So I'm filling that funnel at the top, so there's constantly more possibilities in the top, so that the smaller version of the tunnel, of the funnel rather, are bringing out customers. So without a lot in the top, we can't really score those customers. So it's only about 10%, and that's why we want to use a system consistently over and over again. For those of you that have kind of been through sales training or heard about it, it's always about the sales cycle, right? And it's always cyclical. Even with your existing clients, right? It's going to be, who's a prospect, right? Then I'm going to ask questions to develop that need. Based on if there is a need and I find a value proposition, I want to create a proposal. We're going to negotiate. I'm going to handle some objections. Then we close the deal, we do the sale, and then rinse and repeat, right? So even with my consistent clients, I'm always going through that cycle. There's no real avoiding it. So knowing that we're filling that pipeline, we want to break that into activity goals. So in order to make this happen, I have to set achievable, doable, you want to stretch a little bit, but how many people do I need to contact? And sometimes I break it down to small there, like this morning, how many do I need to contact? It's easier to say, I got to contact 3 this morning versus 50 this week, right? So you do it in manageable goals, but you have to have goals. How many contacts, how many appointments, how many demonstrations if you have a product, how many proposals, how many closed deals did you get this week? You want to make sure that you're working off of those activities so that you can be saying, oh yeah, we accomplished that, we accomplished that. Those activities allow you to move forward. And again, your qualified prospects using the system is going to turn into more higher probability deals, which is what you want to do. So you're just asking those general questions. Again, do they have a need? Are they receptive? Do they have the budget? Am I talking to the right person? Those things never go away, and you always want to keep them in your mind's eye. The other piece, and you'll see I said follow up, continually qualify, constantly following up. The chances of you, let's say, picking up the phone or sending an email and somebody goes, wow, this is so great. I was just sitting here in my office hoping that somebody would contact me about this value proposition. Doesn't really happen, right? A lot of times they'll say, hey, it sounds interesting, but I am swamped. It's gonna have to be Friday, right? And people will say, I'll call you back. Here's the dirty little secret. 75% of salespeople or small businesses or even mid-sized businesses never follow up. Sometimes they never follow up after the proposal. So it's a missed opportunity. And again, it's that communication. If I told you I was going to do something, even if I contacted you and you say, I'm still busy, I've already made an impact on you because I am following up. I am a professional. And that's key to prospecting. If you say you're going to do it, do it. And so when we're trying to figure out who are the best ones out there, some of this is common sense, but it's important to really say, what's my strategy? Who are the people I should be calling on? If I have a particular product that in no way, shape, or form is going to appeal to this demographic or this industry, it makes no sense to go there. And yet a lot of times it's a shotgun approach. Just, let's just kind of talk to anybody and something will shake through. It's totally inefficient. It's a hard way to do it, and you end up annoying a lot of people, right? So you want to focus on the areas where the value proposition is going to be. You want to imitate as much as you can. If something resonated with a client that they're like, this is great, you guys are really good at this, right? Go find more people like that customer so that you can kind of repeat it again. If you've been super successful in a particular geography, keep working that area because the chances are there's other folks in that area that are going to be equally interested. Your existing clients can be prospects. If you haven't talked to them in a while, give them some love. Tell them, hi, we love the fact that you're a client or you were a past client, and we've got some new messaging out there. We wanted to ask you a few questions. They're already gonna be receptive because you're not introducing yourself. They kind of know you, but you're asking them about new data, new possibilities, new pain points, so that you can bring them new solutions. That's a big deal. And then kind of keep your friends close and keep your enemies even closer, right? If your competitors have been really super successful in a particular lane, make note of that. Figure out what they're doing, what value proposition are they doing, and you might find out that some of those prospects could equally be your prospects. So keep your eyes and ears open. This is part of the fun part, right? Where you're constantly making sure that you're spending your most time and you're jealous of your time, so you only want to be working in the highest probability areas. At the end of the day, be open-minded and creative on your teams and your business. If you've got these revenue streams that are super successful, and I know a lot of folks on this webinar probably experienced this during COVID, we had to come up with new revenue streams, right? You think about Chick-fil-A is always super successful. They do what they do. They have a great following. They're the highest revenue group amongst fast food, and yet they had to pivot, right? And they were so good at drive-thrus that they started doing take home, and those were higher revenue deals, so different revenue streams. So be creative and open-minded as you continue to prospect. And then as we kind of talk about it, you hear the 80-20 rule all the time. And what that really means is that if you have 10 tasks in prospecting, chances are that about 20% of those maybe really worthwhile developing a little more, while the other 80 can either wait or they're not timely or they're just not a good use of time. This is the prioritization point. What should I be working on right here and now that's going to have the highest impact, the most profitability? And that's really key. So you approach prospecting not as a let me just get through it, let me just go through the list as quickly as I can, but in a thoughtful manner that's going to have the highest results, highest profit and highest close ratio, right? And the reason I say this is because really amongst awesome marketing companies or super duper salespeople and the folks that aren't so good at it, it isn't really a lot about their talent at all. It has to do with their super high at prioritizing their time and they use their system. So it's really that systematic process. So before we go back to the process, let's kind of talk about where our prospects might be. And they could be any number of ways, depending on your business. If you're selling a service, it might be a little bit different than if you're selling a retail product, but the process doesn't really change. You just want to say, who are the best areas for me to check? And social media more and more is great. When I say joining groups, I mean maybe on LinkedIn or Facebook, if there are areas that your likely prospects are joining, groups, whatever they are, join those too. See what the conversation is, see what's being talked about, see what the common pain points are. It just creates a way for you to position your product or your service as a value proposition versus, hey, it's got this many features and it's only $9.99. That might be interesting in a little, maybe as a blurb as to these are the things, but it's really the benefit. And so as you're looking for them, testimonials, what are people saying great about you? Well, use that in your dialogue. Use that as a part of your value proposition. If somebody refers, you want to farm your referrals, that's a big deal. If somebody refers it to you, it's already qualified. Make sure that we're giving them the same due and asking those same questions. Don't make the assumptions. Email is a great way to find people, not spam, I said. Email, so on your contact forms, people that you have legitimately said you want, they're going to get your email, but email is a great tool. Shows, events are great to go to because you hear a lot of dialogue, you're able to ask a lot of questions, you get a whole lot of data in a short period of time, and hopefully a whole lot of prospects. And going through the other ones, you're always working towards those long-term relationships. If you could have the best client is the one that keeps buying over and over and over again, right? So we're going to be looking hopefully for those kind of prospects that will hopefully be regular customers long-term. Job boards, kind of a fun way to look. If you find that a company might be looking for this position, you might be able to make an assumption that say, oh, they may be needing this. If they're looking for a training director, it might be that they need curricula or they need a content writer. Those are the type of things that I'm talking about. So just kind of use, your investigative juices to really kind of come up with cool ideas. Business journals are awesome. LinkedIn was my #1 weapon. I could find out who reports to who's doing this. I go to their post, I can go to their feed, see what they're talking about. It's just an awesome way to really become educated, do my research ahead of time. Chambers of commerce are gold. People are like, I joined the chamber, I didn't get anything out of it. No, you joined the chamber, but you didn't fully engage in the networking piece, because if you do it properly, get to know folks in the chamber, you can monetize those relationships. So that's a big deal. And then CRM, customer relationship management. If you have those type of tools or you have that software, this is a great way. You can buy lists by vertical, and you can actually enter them in there, and it makes your prospecting activities a little bit easier. So going to those methods, again, it's going to be high value targets. What are the highest profit? What do I make the most money on? How do our existing clients find them valuable? Those type of things. The best fit, the ones that are likely to convert. Again, research is key. When you come in the door looking prepared and like the content expert, people are more likely to listen to what you're talking about. They're certainly, when you ask them the right questions that are thoughtful, that raises the level of respect. Networking is gold, again, trade shows, news articles, all that. So as you're out there kind of going, okay, I'm ready. I'm no longer going to be a briefcase knocking on every door. So what are my tools? Well, you want to have a list. And I usually recommend having a list of like some warm prospects, maybe some referrals, maybe some ones that probably make a whole lot of sense in a particular vertical, because we have a lot of clients like that, and then probably some ice cold ones, right? And I tend to go back and forth just to keep myself together. Going to do 10 calls this hour or 5 calls this hour, instead of going, by the end of the month, I'm going to do 100 calls. It's too overwhelming. Break it into little chunks that you can digest. You make sure you have your collateral. If you get a live one and somebody starts asking you questions, just make sure you've got all your materials with you that you could use to either demonstrate or explain what the nature of their question is. CRM, again, huge tool. If you have it, great. If you're thinking about it, just remember that there are products out there like HubSpot that actually offer a free version, so you can taste it. Obviously, the reason they're doing that is so that you go with the paid version, which has more robust capability, but you can get free ones out there that really kind of help you track your prospecting, your follow-ups, your tasks, your proposals, your marketing campaigns. Really nice to have an automated tool. If you're using it already, bully for you. If you haven't, it's not that hard to get started. And again, it's always about quality versus quantity. In the day when I came out of college, literally with my one wool suit, knocking on doors in Richmond, Virginia, when it's 101 degrees in the summer, literally we were supposed to knock on 40 doors. That was all there was to it. It was not quality. It was just, let's get those numbers in. What I'm saying is let's pivot from that and call on people that might likely become leads for us. And so again, the internet is great. There's lots of places to find out what's going on. There's tons of, by the way, tons of sales groups out there that have all kinds of content that's super helpful. And again, keep your training up to date. There's tons of books on prospecting that are really, really good. A lot of them are modern, so it's not the old style of doing it. It's in today's kind of language, which makes sense. And I mentioned lunch and learns too. If you do events on your own, those can be very helpful. So a couple of people practices, and I always bring it back to somehow when we talk about prospecting, you just picture like these automaton salespeople and automaton types of customers where it's just some sort of impersonal thing, and it's not. It's really about people. Having pure concern for how do I help people? How do I help as many people as I possibly can? How do I connect? I am really curious about what you do in your role. When I was in sales, and actually in my SBDC role, the coolest thing that I do is I'm able to channel surf. I deal with many different types of clients in the course of a day and a week, and that's super cool because I learn about businesses that I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. That's a really cool thing. So the more you ask people about what they do, it's going to reveal to you things that are interesting, but also, again, they're going to reveal maybe possibilities where you can add value. And again, you want to personalize it, so it's not just like, oh, well, hello, Mr. Customer, I am ready to do. Nobody responds well to that. None of us do. So you get to know people, you talk to them, mirroring and matching. If you've ever done sales, they talk about that. If somebody's like super high energy, like I am, then you probably need to keep up if you're going to talk to me, right? But if I'm going to talk to somebody that's a little bit like, I need to just kind of digest this, we're going to be at a slower pace, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to stay with their pace. I'm going to try to stay exactly where they're wanting to talk as opposed to me just kind of blowing them away, right? So you have to be kind of sensitive. That's called mirroring and matching. And again, you're always listening, how you're determining what the impact is, because it's kind of like, oh, well, I want to take a trip to on safari to Uganda. That's great. Can you afford it? No, I can't. Well, then the impact isn't there, right? So if I'm a travel agent, I can't really help you if you have no budget. So that's important. And then remember those current and former customers, they are gold. And all of this is about keeping that pipeline full. The more clients are hearing about what you're doing, again, this is marketing. It's just the human version of marketing. The more people are hearing about what you do super well, the more folks are going to become clients. So some of your tips. Just kind of stuff that I love to do. Our ideal prospect. So you actually have an idea of what is our perfect client. If somebody said they could use all of my services or all of my products, what would they look like? What's common about them? Are they in a particular industry? Are they a particular size? Are they a particular age of client? Just kind of getting a feel for what's that like. When I go to those shows and seminars and groups, it's educational for me, but I am getting my name out there. I'm getting my client, my solution, what I do super well. I'm talking about those all the time. So that's really important. And then I understand social tastes. Again, if I'm monitoring what my prospects are talking about, if I look at what's going on Facebook, Instagram, I see what they're kind of posting, I see how they're trying to acquire clients for themselves. So I'm going to get a real feel for what are they trying to accomplish. It can help me figure out a way to deliver value. And then work the close. Like I said, I always try to have some ice cold, have no idea what's going on with those, some warm referrals, things like that. And the really good one is going back to clients we lost. Something went wrong. Maybe something went really, really wrong. That's a great opportunity to just say, wow, we really stubbed our toe. I wanted to chat with you a little bit just to see what's going on in your world today. and maybe give you a little idea of what we're working on. You can repair that relationship because you have the familiarity. And a lot of times when folks are like, oh, you fixed that? Wow, that's good news. I didn't know that. So it may start a new conversation. So all of that is great. Again, you're a problem solver. You are trying to fix people's pains. As a company, that's what you do. The clients where you're like, it's okay, you know, they're all right, they're fine, probably not going to be an ongoing client. The ones that are like your raving fans that are going like, oh my gosh, they helped me, this is fabulous. You need to talk to that outfit. You want more of those. Those just make sense. The follow-up piece can't be, again, I put it in multiple places because it's my pet peeve, follow-up. Because people who see you follow up, again, even if you hit them for the third time and say, yeah, you told me to call you, it is September 23rd, and I was supposed to call back, and they're like, oh, I'm still really swamped. I'm sorry, Tom. Can we do it another time? I'll say, great, October 1st? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. The fact that you did that makes you persistent, it makes you look successful, and it makes you look like a winner. Just remember, would you rather do business with a successful company or one that is hanging on a thread, right? So as a salesperson or a business owner, you're putting forward, you asked me to do this, I am following up. It's having an impact even if you haven't gotten to that sales type of conversation. So super important, follow-up is everything. Again, farm those referrals. Even if somebody says no to you and say, I understand, we weren't able to do business or sell right now, but we're a small business. We need to grow and we need to talk to other clients like yours. Can you tell me anybody that's in your lane or a referral or somebody in your network that you could refer us to that we might be able to help? Every time. If you win, great time to ask for a referral. Right when you win, do it. If you lose, still a good time to do it. And then it's great to just ask in all of your networking to say, super, the way we succeed is by getting more clients that we can help super well. Do you know of anybody based on what I told you about our company? That sort of thing. Farm it like crazy. Again, those are no longer, they're leads from the get-go. So if it's a referral, oh, Kathy asked me to call you because she knows we do this. I'm wondering if you have this same sort of issue. That's gold, right? And then knowledge, product knowledge, be the absolute expert because client expects you to. If you offer a service, show that you absolutely know your product. Be ready for hard questions. Debate things amongst your team. Come up with different ways. Throw objections at each other so that you're ready for it and you are the content leader. Makes a whole lot of sense. And then as all this kind of wraps up, it's basic storytelling. Since the beginning of time, since I guess the first person sold a stone wheel to somebody else, it's still about a story. You know, based on what you told me, those pain points, very interesting because many of our clients went through the same sort of issues. And in fact, this is how we were able to help them. And that was fine because we were able to help them drive their revenues, reach more clients, relax because they went on a great vacation, right? You're telling the story in a way that the client can relate to. So it's super important. So let's just talk about the truths. I mean, a lot of this all sounds very easy. It's not. I mean, it takes effort. That's why you want to use you want to use measurables that you're constantly on, making sure that you're tracking. Are we touching enough people? Are we doing enough proposals? Are we getting in front of people that are likely buyers? We have to do it. So it's not terribly easy, but it's totally doable. And it's a just do it moment, right? You just do it. It's not an option not to. And that's why it was a trick question in the polls. I was like, okay, how many people think if you did more prospecting, you would be more profitable? Well, of course you would, right? So we need to have the system in place, and then we just have to execute it. And we'll talk about what that means in terms of KPIs in a second. For those of you that have seen my KPI webinar, you'll know that I'm a little bit of a stickler about it. So you probably expected I'd throw it in here, and I am. So again, just remember that the buyer owns the sales process. They're going to decide when they're going to buy. There's no flim-flam salespersons going, okay, press hard, 5 copies, you must buy right now. That only happens in cartoons. It's not true. So the buyer owns the process. They know they're going to take that journey where they're going to take it. But the key is, as a good salesperson, prospector, value propositioner, if you will, is we guide the client through their buyer's journey. They own the process, but our skills and our value proposition helps them guide through it. So there's a nuance there, but it's an important one. And again, remember, in this day on the internet and smartphones, people can get research on you all the time, right? And they probably do. So if you're pitching them on a new roof, they're going to go to Google and Yelp and anything else to see exactly what your reviews are. They're going to go to your website and see if the value proposition you're talking about mirrors what's on the website, those type of things. So just remember, buyers are smart and they've got a lot of data, so they can absolutely research what you're doing. So make sure that when you're consistently, you're always honest, always forthright, always sincere, and consistent with what your messaging is across your entire world, right? As I said, prospects admire persistence because it looks professional, you look determined, you look like a winner. Salespeople who work succeed. One of the data points that I'm not going to put here because there's just way too many words on here is that 81.6%, I don't know where they got this from, what poll, but of successful salespeople work 4+ hours per day on selling activities. So that means not just kind of on the internet doing research, et cetera, really reaching out to clients via email, social media posts, phone calls, et cetera. Most of your top salespeople work on selling activities 4 or more hours a day. That's pretty huge. So it's hard work, but it pays off, right? So yes, you're like, where are those key performance indicators? Hooray. You don't have to wait any longer. Here are your KPIs. And this is like super important. And this was a data point that I think everybody's going to find interesting. By simply measuring activities, so the same things, the calls, the proposals, the closed deals, the revenue this week, whatever those KPIs are that you've determined for your business, it has been demonstrated that if you measure those activities, just measuring them, nothing else, we're not even talking about doing something dramatically like cool new proposals or anything, you just measure the activities, your revenue will increase by 12%. So most of the folks on the call, I'm guessing, are small businesses. If you were able to simply just change a little bit of your management process to increase revenues by 12%, we're not even talking about performance, you would probably do it. So that's compelling to me. I just thought I'd share it. So again, you're going to be measuring those key sales metrics. You want to measure them on a regular basis. People understand what's expected of them, and it's going to happen. If that doesn't seem to be happening, if people aren't able to make their call volume, they're not able to get enough proposals out there, that's good. It's not good, but we have to fix it, right? So we're going to find out. We've already revealed there's an issue going on. It's a coachable moment. We need to find out what's going on. Is something changed in the market? Is there something going on with our folks? What's happening? So I can address it immediately as opposed to waiting a quarter later going, well, we haven't hit our numbers, right? So KPIs on a regular basis allow you to focus on the things you need to be doing. This is really important. That's why I love KPIs. It's a big deal. In the prospecting segment of KPIs, you want to work on leading indicators. So it's going to be those, how many calls are being made, how many meetings, how many appointments, how many prospect to win conversions are we doing? The things that are leading, so they're not past like, yeah, we did this many sales last year. That's important, but not necessarily as a manageable KPI. We want to know, what is the activity? Are we making our number, exceeding it, or are we falling short, and why? So it's a real coachable moment and super important.
So Tom?
Yes.
We do have a question. Is the 12% you mentioned on sales or general Hawthorne effect improvement?
Teresa,
I'll repeat that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Is the 12% on sales or general Hawthorne effect improvement?
So I stole this off of the internet. So the way I read it is total revenue. So total sales of your, whatever your product or service is. So I took that as total revenue.
Okay.
Should have cited it, but didn't. So good question. And so from our data, measuring KPIs, also our lagging indicators, what's going on out there, we want to know a couple of different things that are super important. And this gets to that profitability piece. We want to make sure that through our efforts, we are increasing the number of likely prospects, likely buyers. When I say prospects in this regard, we want to increase that number. So we need to figure out, how do I get to more folks like those awesome customers I already have? So we need to increase that volume. That is to that 12% we're talking about. Increasing the number of people that we're serving well is going to increase the top line, right? And assuming the rest of our cost lines are in order, that should also have a very positive impact on the bottom line, profits, right? Number two, The other ways that we can improve those numbers, not only with the KPI metrics, but just in general, is if we can coach ourselves to become more efficient. So if I take less appointments to close sales, in other words, if I had, usually if I have 4 appointments, I close 1. But if I become more efficient in my prospecting and my qualifying, I'm able to close 2 sales out of 4 appointments. I've increased my efficiency by 50%, so there's less effort involved. My return on investment jumps up, if that makes sense. Again, if I had 4 and I was able to close 1, it's like 25% hit rate. If I have 4 meetings and I close 2, that's a 50% hit rate. All I've done is increased my efficiency, which makes me more profitable, higher return on my prospecting and other sales activities. That's important. The other is on my close ratio, or I'm sorry, and the other was calls to appointments. So if it took me like 10 calls to get 3 appointments, but then I'm able to get 10 calls and 4 appointments, again, I'm increasing, I put the cart before the horse, but anytime I'm increasing that efficiency, I am becoming more profitable because my return on investment is higher. The other piece is if you are able to sell a single unit of a product or a single hour of consulting time, that's great. If you then talk to more clients, more prospects that could use 25 of your product, or they could use an entire month's worth of consulting, the effort involved in closing those 2, there might be a little bit more complexity, but in general, the total cost, the total time invested from prospect to qualifying to proposal to closing is not going to be way off, not exponentially. So we're focusing your business on those larger deals and longer term deals is going to be a higher return on your investment. And again, that drops to the profit, to the bottom line as well, if that makes sense. So all 4 of those, it's increasing profitability because your marketing has to be efficient. You are doing the prospecting in order to increase sales, but ultimately the only reason you're doing it is to increase the growth of the company and therefore the profits, right? So that's it. And then stay fresh. This is a people business, right? So if you do the same exact thing over and over and over again, that's not typically what is going to be, it's not going to resonate with prospects, right? So you want to change up your outreach, try different things, get a wild hair. Maybe you read a book, maybe you read a blog that said, hey, try this, give it a whirl, keep it fresh. Make sure that you understand you're talking with people. No 2 folks are alike, so no 2 approaches are going to be the same. So try it differently. The more people you meet, the more you learn about trends. The more you do that, the more you build relationships. Relationships long-term are really conducive to sales. It's like they just don't know you as the salesperson. They know you as the person I call when I've got a problem. There's a big difference there, right? Networking with other salespeople is usually great. There are certainly set ones like BNI, there are chamber leads groups, things like that. Talking with other salespeople who are offering other solutions and products can be very helpful because you can kind of compare notes on what you're doing. But you also might find ways that you could be sharing leads with each other, which is a big deal. Just saying, yes, I know someone that's in that field that I trust, you should call them. So that can be very effective and it can be a high conversion rate. Your process shouldn't be random or haphazard, but you do want to try some new things, but you try things that are just not kind of willy-nilly. You've actually thought about it and you're testing it out, if you will. And again, at the end of the day, as companies, as small businesses, as consultants, as salespeople, our value is completely tied to our ability to solve people's problems and create value. The other thing is, if you are still in the door-to-door business, and there are industries that still do it, if you're doing that, a lot of times going in pairs can be helpful because it's sometimes a little bit intimidating, but team prospecting can be great. So
Hey,
back to the qualifying. Yes?
So sorry, we have another question.
Awesome.
How would one go about not losing prospects in the process of proposing a service to them? I lost a prospect after I gave my proposal. At the proposal, they ended the conversation. This person is a copywriter.
Okay. So hard to say. Probably any time that we don't get a deal is a learning moment. So going back to the prospecting piece, you have to say, was the value proposed exactly what the client or the prospect had revealed as an issue, right? So those two have to be together. Were they motivated? Is it like, we wanted to do this now? Is the timing right? Is it the right decision maker? A lot of times we just hear crickets after we send a proposal. Sometimes it's to someone who is collecting information, who then has to hand it to somebody else who actually makes the final decision, and that can be difficult. So it might be part of the qualifying process. They may not have the need, and this happens all the time. They had a need right now, but all of a sudden somebody pulled out the rug from under them, meaning the budget, and now they don't, now it's not hot on the burner. It is important, though, when that happens, to be a little bit tenacious on finding out why, right? So that's a good thing, to just kind of say, oh, they ghosted on me, but just say, hey, really, we're trying to improve as a company or a salesperson or whatever it is. I'd really like to know where we went wrong, because we felt like we really had a great high value solution. What was it? And so that can give you a little bit of data going forward. You never really know. And then there are some people who just never reveal anything. So you just kind of you shrug your shoulders and say, oh, well, we move on. But it could be qualifying, could be decision maker, could be budget. Hard to say, but I also recommend going back to the client and saying, hey, what could we have done better? Because we're a small business. I'm a salesperson. I get paid to do this. How could I possibly improve our approach going forward? Okay. Teresa, is that all the questions you have for the moment?
So far, that's all.
These are good ones, by the way. You guys are good. This is a sharp group. I'm glad I ate my Wheaties this morning. So going back to the qualifying process, super important. And this may be, again, to making sure we're talking with the right person. Do they fit our profile? Are they way out and different? If they are different, let's make sure that we qualify it to see if this is really something we can help with. Not that we really want to help them, because we do want to help them, but can we really? And some of that will be revealed in the qualification. Is there really a need or a problem to fix? If they're just like, oh yeah, just give me a price on your copy paper. And you say, oh, well, I can do that. Are you needing a better price on copy paper? No, I'm just curious. Okay, well, before I give you a price, who are you using? What is your relationship, et cetera? Is it just out of curiosity, et cetera? So I want to make sure, is there really a need or a problem that I can fix? Back to, what is the decision process? Does it have to go to this collector of the information, then to a couple of influencers, and ultimately to another decision maker? Or is it going out to bid and it's just lowest price? I mean, what is going on? What is that process? Because that's going to help you decide, A, whether you're going to give a proposal, or B, what your chances really are of success. Sometimes it's, oh yeah, well, the budget ran out in this quarter, we're going to revisit it in Q1. And if you've built that kind of rapport with them, you're hopefully going to be able to flesh out that information and say, great, should we reconvene maybe the first week in January? So, things like that. So constantly keep that conversation open. When you're going into a deal, is there an incumbent competitor? If there's somebody they absolutely love and they're just going to go shop it just to see if it's the best price out there, you need to know that. What's the level of that relationship? What are they really hoping to accomplish? So you just ask those questions. Sometimes they may be planning a project in-house and they're trying to figure out, would it be better for us to outsource it or buy it somewhere else? You need to understand that. What's going on in your team? What do you guys envision? What are you trying to accomplish? Because that's going to really kind of change how you do the proposal, or again, whether you're even going to do a proposal, because there's a lot of work involved there for wasted effort, right? And then just remember, I always have to remind myself that it's not just like, okay, who's the decision maker? How many will you buy? What is the budget, et cetera? People don't react well to that. So make sure that you're flowing your information or your questions into a conversation, not an interrogation with a white hot light, right? Seems obvious, but I've seen salespeople who are just like, whoa, hold on, Tiger. Let's just talk to them like they're a person, and we just need to remember that. And what I'm saying is that curiosity and care, really trying to be curious about what's going on in your world, what's difficult, what's great, what are you trying to accomplish, what do you want to be when you grow up? Having that sincere curiosity and really wanting and caring to do it, because one of the little sayings out there, it's really hokey, but I love it, is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? If they think that you're really legitimately concerned about their business, you're going to get a different kind of reaction than when it looks like you're just trying to sell something, because no one likes to be sold. So this is going to be kind of the more specific questions that you'll answer. You know, do they want your solution? Some people just might appease you. Sure, just send me a proposal, but they don't really want it. So make sure you understand that before you go to all that work. Can they actually use it? Is there a problem? There might not be a problem. And so it might be something for later, but just make sure you understand that before you put a lot of effort into it. Do they have the money? Kind of important. Got to be able to pay for it, and that's important to ask right out of the shot. And that's okay. You're not really insulting anybody by saying, "Do you have the budget for this year?" You know, that sort of thing. The need, desire, problem. We kind of beat that to death. Are all the decision makers present? Sometimes there's a committee. We work here at the college. Oh my gosh, not a lot happens without a committee, right? So in order to buy something, like when we bought furniture for the new training room, it had, I think, 7 people in a room, and then we actually made a decision that way. So you need to understand how those decisions are made, so you can best close it. Trial close, you're always going to want to find out, great, you had this concern, you have this issue, this is the solution we're thinking about. If this solves the problem and allows you all to do whatever, will this be the solution you're going to invest in? You know, at that point, they're like, well, I don't know, we're going to have to do it. Well, we need to dig a little bit more. What's going on here before I try to propose something, because you're not sure whether you're going to buy it. I need you to know, yes, if this absolutely works and it's within the budget, we are pretty convinced that we're going with it. Okay, fine. Do that trial close continually. So why am I making such a big deal about qualifying? Well, this happens all the time in the sales world. I have managed a zillion salespeople, and a lot of times it comes down to this. If they're not doing it right, if they're not measuring their activities, if they're not qualifying, not asking the right questions, they waste time. They are messing around with business that will never close, and they're wasting that time because it's time they could be introducing themselves to others. This is a big deal. It's a big time hog. If you don't do it systematically, you might misread the opportunity that's there and think it's one thing when it's actually something else. That conversation has to be not only friendly and curious and systematic, has to be complete. You need to know all the information so you don't get surprised. You might, and this is a big deal, and you small business owners out there probably know, you could close deals that you never wanted in the first place, right? You have that client that you're like, we'd be better off without that client. They're low margin, high maintenance. We spend more time with them than we do with our best customers, all that sort of thing. Sometimes if we don't qualify properly, we end up with those type of clients, which can be a major drag on profits. So think about that and make sure you and your salespeople are kind of on the same page when it comes to that. You don't ask the right questions. You're so happy that they basically look like they might actually buy it, and you go back to write the proposal, but you didn't ask the other things. That's super important. Also, it looks, again, like you're not that terribly interested and not that professional. So ask all of the questions, ask the right ones. One question I love in prospecting, and when I'm interviewing other people, I'll say, great, I think I have a good picture of what's going on here. What important question didn't I ask? It always makes people go, let me think about it. That's a good thing, right? Because now they're kind of going, yeah, there's probably other information you might need here. So think about that. What question should I have asked that I didn't? And you'll be kind of amazed at what kind of reactions you get to that. Again, if you don't ask those questions properly, you get poor data, you don't understand the process, you don't know how long this thing's going to go on for. You could be waiting forever, or worse, they just ghost on you, right? And what you don't want is that you close the deal and all of a sudden you find out there's this other surprise. Oh, by the way, we don't pay in 60 days, we pay 90 days. Well, you needed to know that ahead of time. It needed to be part of the proposal. So just remember all that. So as we kind of evaluate our companies, or as a salesperson, I'm kind of saying, you know, am I a good prospector? Am I a good qualifier? Do I invest the adequate time with prospects, or am I just trying to get through my day, just trying to boom, 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 talk to as many people as possible? Am I using the right metrics, and am I spending enough time? Do we have solutions that really belong to the client? Not that makes me wealthy, hopefully it does, but that actually helps a client? Am I focused? Am I always customer facing? Do I know? I mean, absolutely. If somebody asks me for an elevator pitch, what do you all do really well in your company, or what does your company do super well? That it's like that. I know these 4 things, we are best in class. I would put us up against anybody in the world because we do this and this is how we do it. If you haven't honed those down, take some time to do it because it's going to make you way more dangerous out on the battlefield. Have you spent time? Here's a freebie, right? Free webinar, but there's a zillion of them out there. Spend time in that training. Keep it fresh. Keep it front of mind. Read books. Get all of the skills you possibly can. Imitation is awesome in the prospecting game because if you see something that works kind of well that you think is neat, bring it into your own way of doing things, add your personality, be that storyteller, try new ideas. And then again, back to where it all starts, the customer. Who are our most profitable customers and what are our most profitable solutions or products? That's key to what the prospecting should be in the first place. And then do you have that prospecting process? Have you put it in place? You should have, and that sort of thing. So have we established all those goals? I know we're getting tight on time, so I want to make sure that what we don't want to do is back to not interrogating our clients. Don't think that you understand something and assume it. That doesn't make any sense. Make sure you understand the context of what you're doing. By the way, all of these slides and a handout are going to be sent to you, and also they're available for download if you're on your dashboard right now, so you won't miss all of this. Here's just, I wanted to take you through this because I just think this is cool, right? Talking about the science of people. And I wanted to share with you, just saying, as you're prospecting, understand that popularity, we all want to be popular. I think we all want to be popular. We want to be popular so that people like us, and that's great. So when you're popular, people like that. But if you are an expert and an influencer, that makes people listen. Nuance, super different, makes sense. And that's why blogs are a perceived influencer. If somebody wrote about something, I'll read that. That's probably on point, right? But when public speakers are actually giving a compelling talk about something, you are really listening. They have a high influence. So just remember that when you're talking on the phone or speaking with a client face to face, your ability or potential to influence are much, much higher. Sell yourself before your product. You know, people don't naturally trust other people. And when you hear the word, oh, salesperson, right? It still gives people the heebie-jeebies. And yet what it is really somebody that sells solutions. So you're selling yourself first. Can they trust you? Are you a trustworthy person? Why should I? How do you stand out? Are you teaching me things? You want to build interest and desire with features, but and benefits. So just remember, benefits mean what is the end state. So in other words, I put down here, you don't buy a swimming pool, you buy a lifestyle and a way to spend more time with your family. Back in the day when the iPod first came out, you didn't buy the iPod just because it was a gizmo. You kind of did if you were an Apple fan, but you bought that. But it was the ability to have 1,000 songs in your pocket, which never before did you have. That was the real benefit. So work on benefits versus just the features, because we always saw speeds and feeds. These are like the coolest features in the world. Yeah, they are, but they're only cool insofar as those features actually have a benefit that benefits the client. Nuance, but super important. And again, people are going to be naturally defensive, not necessarily wanting to be just kind of all in with the first person they call. It's all too easy. So answer their questions, give them regular valuable client, even or content. So let's say that they're not ready to buy right now, but regularly you're sending them newsletters, things like that, to make sure that you're sending them relevant content so that you, again, you look like an expert, but you're giving them things. And that's why it's a give-give relationship, right? You always want to give a little bit more than somebody expects. Think about your favorite restaurant. You go there because you like the food, you like the service, and then there's always something a little extra. The wait staff is a little friendlier. They give you a mint with your check, whatever. There's just a little bit more. So the more that you can give, the perception is that you are somebody worth doing business with. So it's super important. And again, my final tip, it's stop selling. Selling is such a, it sounds awful. You close more sales by being an educator, a information provider, and a solutions provider. So that's kind of the super fast run through prospecting. Hopefully there's some good tidbits in there. I wanted to check and see, Teresa, do we have some more questions?
We do have 3 more questions right now.
Fantastic.
All right, the first question, how do solicit the company to be met with my solution? Okay, so I read that as it is, but I'm thinking the question is, how do they get the information from the company that their solution can meet what their goal?
Okay, well, I think if I understand it, so if you found a suspect, a client that you want to call on that seems to fit that profile that you've kind of established, they would be a likely company. The most important part is going to be the interview, where you're kind of saying, great, what is it you're looking for? But you then want to say, and there's 2 nuances, almost like a website, right? Where you say the pain point is we have a leaky roof, right? And you say, okay, well, I do roofs. Let me give you a proposal. No. Hold on. Leaky roof, that's the pain point. With our system of putting new roofs on these type of, we prevent leaks from ever happening again for the next 15 years, money back guarantee. The reason we do that, it's the first time I'm talking about me, is that we use this type of material. We have, average tenure of 8 years, whatever. So that's it. So it's all about what is the pain point, so then you can present the solution. Because otherwise you won't know. You're taking a shot, and that's probably a low probability activity. So you really need to know, because if you talk to a client long enough, think about this. If you talk to someone long enough, they're going to tell you precisely how to sell them, right? They're going to tell you the pain point, why it's a pain point, what they're hoping to accomplish, why they've not been successful with maybe another supplier. Once you know all of that, and assuming you have those capabilities or those core competencies, you're going to be able to present a proposal that makes sense. But if you kind of short circuit it, try to go, hey, I found out they need a roof, to over to here, I could miss a whole lot of super important pieces that are going to either maybe not satisfy the client or not make me successful. So I don't know if I answered it, but I hope I kind of did.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
And if I didn't express the question well enough, please go ahead and let me know. The next question is,
and by the way, Teresa, I think people can also send us questions after the fact that we can answer. Is that correct?
yeah, absolutely. You have your email up there. They're welcome to send you an email afterwards, or they can go to DaytonaState.edu SBDC to register for consulting, or they can register for consulting at their local SBDC and let me know if you're not in our Central Florida area. I will try to find you a local SBDC. But we do have about 4 or 5 more questions if we can
Super.
get. All right. How do you find out who your target audience is for your product? My clients range in age from 20 to 60, mostly women. Is that good enough information?
So that's an awesome question. So you have a demographic. These are your likely buyers. So that's a good piece. The other questions you want to ask are, whatever your product is, but whatever it is, what is their typical pain point or desire? What is that group? Is there a common something or another that they are trying to accomplish, they would like to feel, pain point that isn't easily solved? So we want to know that. Depending on what the product or service is, if it's in a certain budget category, if it's a retail item, that's one angle. If it's more of a long-term subscription, you want to find out, well, what's common to those women? That's a pretty wide demographic, but I would think a lot of products really appeal to that female wide band. So what is it they're looking for? Is it a self improvement type of product? Is it something that's educationally based? Is it something that is, it's skills based? Anything like that. You want to come up with those commonalities so that you're targeting the folks that are not just 20 to 50 and female, but they also are more likely to want those things. So you're really just kind of honing it down to, how do I get to the most likely prospect? It's good that we have the demographic. What other things would be common to our best customers?
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, What is the best way to compensate salespeople to promote the efforts you presented? Or
Yeah.
is it a non-factor more in the salesperson's DNA?
It is a fabulous question, and it's really, really hard, right? So I know lots of businesses we work with, we actually kind of sit down and try to help them with their comp plans so that it drives the right behavior that hopefully the salesperson becomes, they have higher earnings, right? But that is only good insofar as the company gets more profit. So that's a great thing, right? So part of it is going to be a training piece, because you can't really train, or you can't really compensate people on the activity piece, right? The activity is just sort of, okay, the job description is this, you're expected to sell, and as a part of being a salesperson, our expectations for a week's activity are the following, right? And you put those parameters out there. But the other part is you train them kind of the same way we did, right? Here with this, you could use parts of this slide stack. There's no copyright on this. To say the reason that we do this is because we found that if we make this many contacts, we can get this many appointments. And from these appointments in our field, you know, whatever those are, whatever your experience is, we tend to get these many customers. So your activity is going to drive this closed sale, and the closed sale is what you make money on. So it's a part of the training of understanding the connection between the activities, the types of activities, and how that results in successful closed sales. So that's where it is. As far as the compensation goes, it's always, people change them all the time, and it's based on how do we motivate people to do the right thing. But some of it is going to be the training piece of connecting, you know, what is it, you know, what are the connections, and then how do I do each one of those things? Am I really comfortable with how to do prospecting? Do I even know how to do it? Am I really comfortable with asking questions in the need development part? Am I really good at isolating a value or need or problem that needs to be solved? And then am I able to create a proposal or a quote based exactly on those needs? And then do I know how to close it? So there's a lot of moving parts there. At the end of the day, salespeople typically are only paid on the things that they close, whether it's on profit or revenue or units sold. So just connecting the dots. So some of that's probably going to be training.
Awesome. The next question is, how do I move forward from educating to making a call to action that they actually buy from you? I'm a giver, and sometimes I give without asking.
Ah, okay. So there's a lot in that question. You guys are good. This is unbelievable. Now I'm really tired. This is really good. But no, that's perfect, right? So that some of it is kind of the closing part. And one of the things about the give part, and I hear you, is sometimes we give too much, because if I've given something of value, so if you go to the trouble of, let's say, writing an article for somebody and you give that free of charge, a couple of things happen. Number one, they might just say, great, that's all I really needed. Thank you. That's good. The other thing is it may not have perceived value because it was free. And I'll just tell you from personal experience here at the SBDC, we actually deal with this all the time, right? Because our services are no cost. So people don't get an invoice from us. But sometimes some of our clients might say, well, how much can it really be worth if it doesn't cost anything? Well, the reality is it costs a whole lot. It's just that your tax dollars paid for it and the Daytona State College pay for it in order to help other people. So it's a little bit different. But in your sales game, if there's not a perceived value, don't give too much. Leave them wanting more, that sort of thing, and making sure that you use those trial closes too, and just say, great, based on what we talked about, I'm going to do this part of it to give you whatever, a flavor, a taste, I'm going to do this. But after we do this and you are delighted with what I've created or what my product is, do we then have the basis to go ahead and go forward with a contract or the sale or what have you? You need to do that trial close so that people understand that this is a two-way street. I do my part, and you as a buyer, you just have to come up with the money. Well, no, you have the problem too, but I need those two things to happen. I don't want to give away too much because it may not be valued, and I may give it away and I don't get a sale out of it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that the client fully understands that the reason you're talking, you're in business. You have to make revenue and you have to make profit to continue on just like they do, right? So there's no secret what you're trying to do. It's the same, so you just have to make sure you're on the same page. So probably I went a little bit far afield there, but it sounds like don't give away too much, leave them wanting more.
Yeah, that's a really hard thing to, balance. But so the next question is first, before we get to the next question, we have two praise comments. Mr. Tom is the best. Yay for Mr. Tom.
Well, there's got to be a check in the mail.
And the next one, somebody commented that this was excellent. Thank you so much. I am in the process of starting my business. Prospecting is my #1 focus that they teach and they tutor online. So that being said, the next question is, what is the best way to get past the quote unquote gatekeeper of a large company to be able to speak to the right person?
Okay, lots of different ways. I'll tell you one of the things that I did, because I was typically in my past, I was in the technology and then telecommunications field. So a lot of times I really needed to get to an influencer, a top one, which was hard. And so this is where I used LinkedIn like crazy. That's why I encourage everybody, load up as many in your network as you possibly can. And here's how it works. Even if you have the free version of LinkedIn, that's all I ever used, not the Sales Navigator, although it's awesome, but I didn't necessarily want to spend the money. So what I will do is, let's say I need to find somebody at FPL, right, at a very high level, maybe head of marketing or something like that, very high on the food chain. But I don't really know them, and I'm having a hard time getting through gatekeepers that are like, oh, just send me your information, right, and that sort of thing. So what I would always do is I would go to their profile, even if it's public, it would still show me, for the most part, who their followers are. And I click on them, and so it would be Kathy Craven is the head of marketing at FPL. Okay, and then I see who their friends are, right? And then all of a sudden, I see that Teresa Davis is a mutual contact, right? Because she's on my network and she's also on Kathy's. So instantly, my next phone call or email is like, Teresa, how you been? I hope everything's great in your world. Awesome. I am trying so hard to get into FPL to talk to Kathy Craven, but she doesn't return my calls and I'm getting hit with a gatekeeper. Any advice? Teresa says, yeah, she's actually awesome. And I work with her at the United Way. And she's wonderful here. And I'll say, wonderful. Can you make an introduction? So that soft introduction sometimes helps. And again, that could be, that's a second generation, but it could be a third where you say, oh, well, I don't know that person necessarily, but then I'll call the Daytona Chamber and say, I see FPL is a member of the chamber. I am trying to get over to this person, Nancy Kiefer, CEO of the chamber. How would I possibly put my best foot forward to get to them, because I'm getting slammed by the gatekeepers. So get creative. You don't want to necessarily just end run people and get their email and just spam them from somebody else. But if you leverage your connections and your networks, sometimes you did it. I did that all the time, and it was really cool. It seems to work fairly well, and it just broadens your networks. And while you're having that conversation, maybe I haven't talked to Teresa in like 3 months. I'm like, by the way, how's business? How can I be helping you in your business, right? So it's part of that give. I want to make sure that I'm taking good care of my networks too. So just an idea. There's different ways you could think about it.
Excellent idea. So we have another thank you for this webinar. It has my wheels turning now to apply this to my business. Yeah. So that's awesome. And then this next question I'm going to ask, I'm going to do the best I can. I did try to get a little bit more information to understand what the actual question was. So bear with me.
Sure.
My experience is I am addressing a problem my prospective customer was given by their customer. Is there a requirement flow down that resulted in the need for my service? That was their question. Is there something that...
So the customer brought a problem to the other customer?
It looks like a customer has a problem and they came to you to solve the problem of their customer.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. Well, a couple things. So a lot of times, and we're near the Space Coast, for instance. So a lot of my local clients here kind of develop a scientific gizmo that they then sell to NASA or the Navy or whatever, so that the Navy can be solving, getting into space, or, their clients, the US government or NASA. That's that way. If a client is just coming to you that has, hey, I have this problem and I don't know how to fix it, either that customer could refer you directly to them, or if they're trying to create a solution, you become part of it. So you're not only helping them fix a problem, but you become a collaborator, I guess, in the third generation customer.
Sort of
I don't
like
know. I'm probably not answering that well. I'd have to kind of discuss it in context. So if it's an issue you're working on, send me a quick email so I can kind of get the gist of it, so I can give you a better answer. Because
they mentioned, they gave me a like flowing down ISO 9000 to suppliers.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure. Yeah,
that was very technical talk. I didn't know what ISO 9000 was.
Yeah, well, ISO 9000, so that's process management, and commonly found in either production environments or manufacturing.
Okay.
So I'd have to know the exact issue and context. And again, if they want to email me the details, I can wrap my brain around it a little bit more eloquently.
Okay. This looks like the last question so far. Again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box. And if you are going to go ahead and head out, we will be sending an email with an evaluation request about an hour after the end of this webinar. So please keep an eye out for it and make sure you respond. It's very short, how we did, how Tom did, do you absolutely hate us now? Just a really short question. Just hit a couple dots and you're done. So this last question, and again, we'll take more if you guys have them, but this last one says, my startup is a nonprofit, and per my experience with SBDC and SCORE, do not serve nonprofits. Might you guys know any consulting or advising resources that I could use? I need advice to find a good marketing manager. My team is very small, and I am the owner and executive director, and essentially the chief of everything officer at this point. I've never run a business, and I lack direction on how to grow the right team.
Okay. So a couple of things there. We don't directly support nonprofits here, but we do know, and I'll have to get it, Teresa, maybe Eunice can share it. I believe University of North Florida actually has one consultant that helps nonprofits, and we have referred folks up to them before. So we can get that to you. So again, send us an email with your contact info, and I'll track that down for you. As far as marketing manager, yeah, really, especially right now in post-COVID, hiring professional positions are tough. My first step is always career source, and I'm pretty sure that nonprofits work with them as well. I think that's true. Career source is just, they're gems to work with. They're a partner of ours. We work with them all the time. So that's usually my first place. And then if you can find in your local area, or even if it's national, the other place that is, I think, are always good to reach out to are associations. So for your particular lane of nonprofit or whatever it is you do, if you can go to that association, sometimes there's a much higher density of folks in your lane, and hopefully marketing people that might, hopefully they can refer somebody to you.
Okay, and depending on where you're at, some SCOREs I do know, depending what area they serve, some of them do have specific nonprofit people as well. Mm-hmm. And then again, like you said, there is a program at the University of North Florida that does also serve nonprofits. Mm-hmm. And I believe if you're in the Orlando area, Rollins College has an entrepreneurial nonprofit center that provides some classes and maybe some meetings as well. So they might be, if you're in that area, rollins.edu. So we have one more question. How do I sell my services of short-term rentals to large corporations that need housing for their employees coming into the city?
So specifically, I'd have to give it some thought, but again, the looking at who would benefit most from that, And that's typically the place that ends up being the clearinghouse in companies, and it's going to be the HR department. So they end up getting stuck with relos, short-term housing, sometimes even if it's employees that are traveling on a regular basis, that sometimes not only goes to their expense control group, but also to HR. So that's a great place. And if you have HR or you know HR people, you know that they are generally overworked, and they typically are always the, oh, can you make this, this recruiting problem go away? This employee is mad about their benefits. Will you talk about them? So they deal with a lot of issues. If you can approach them with, I have a solution to short-term housing that I think is going to really work for you, that could actually take some work off of your plate, you might be able to get some traction. That's always a good place to go. So I usually go to my HR friends.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions we have.
Okay.
Is there
Awesome.
anything else you need to cover?
Not at all. You guys have been super patient. In fact, I see a bunch of people are still hanging on. Thank you. You're awesome. And as Teresa said, if you're here in Volusia County, let us know. And even if you're not, if it bubbles up to us, Kathy is a wonderful traffic cop. She'll then send it to our cohorts, whether it's across our region in our 7-county area, or if you guys are out of state or you're across, anywhere, SBDC has a presence where you are. We'll make sure you get to the right people. But we love doing this. Thank you so much. Appreciate your feedback. You didn't throw any tomatoes, so you guys are the best. Appreciate it. But please, thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Again, if you have any questions or if you'd like to schedule a meeting with the consultant, please feel free to contact Tom or go to the website. And that evaluation survey should be sent out within the next 2 hours, hopefully within the hour. And we'll let you go for the rest of your day. Thank you guys, everyone, and we'll talk to you guys shortly. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, y'all. Bye-bye.